Hello, so I was just talking about the North Korean nuclear tests. This is part two. And what I was talking about is how some apologists for this whole nuclear issue like to say, oh well, America has weapons, Britain has weapons, etc. Why can't other countries have weapons? The point is, speaking for my country, we have nuclear weapons. We've never used them aggressively. That's a fact. We've tested them, and they're a controversial issue. Now, I respect the opinion of those who say these things are evil, and they should be abandoned completely. I don't agree with it. My own stance is I believe we should reduce nuclear stockpiles in order to set a good example for non-proliferation, but I don't believe in getting rid of them completely. Um, I believe other countries that have them, France, Russia, China, India, Pakistan, and arguably Israel, I don't think any of those countries, whilst they have nukes, I don't think they have any real desire to proliferate. And this is a fundamental difference. With North Korea, they are hell-bent on getting nuclear weapons, never mind the millions of starving citizens. The need for nuclear weapons, the need to demonstrate military power, and the fanatical xenophobic hostility to the United States, for a range of reasons, really can be seen in North Korea. I think it's very hard to know what approach to take with this regime. Sanctions, the country's been sanctioned so many times. People are incredibly poor. The only thing left, from what I understand, that can be sanctioned is oil. And then, of course, that would need Chinese backing, and I'm not sure if they will go along with that, because it may impact them as well. The South have tried to take a conciliatory approach, depending on the administration, but I know the incoming president, Miss Park Geun-hye, I'm sorry, my pronunciation of Korean names may not be great. She's offered an olive branch to the north, and I believe most South Koreans at some stage want unification. But I have been told by South Korean student of mine that one concern the South has is economic disparity. If there's ever unification, the North is dirt poor, the South is a developed country. So balancing that out is going to be a massive challenge. A bit like East and West Germany at the end of the Cold War, but even more dramatically so. The concept of a military strike in the North is unthinkable, because that would start a nuclear war. So neither the United States or Japan or South Korea, I don't think, would do that. As for the North itself, I don't think they're going to actually attack anyone anytime soon. But the question still has to be why do they feel the need to test this weapon at this stage? I believe it's as a warning to their neighbours that they are still a power to be reckoned with. I think it's a personal statement, perhaps from Kim Jong-un himself, that he's not simply number two to his father. He's trying to make his mark. Then the question is, how much influence has the military got on him, given he's only 29? Images that have been shown of Kim Jong-un, the contrast with his father is he's more jovial, if that's the right word. Bizarre images of him at theme parks and so on in Pyongyang. I really don't know what the best approach for this is. The US obviously is right to condemn it, but militarily there's little they can do. I think one proposal I would put forward is the concept, this might be naive, but the concept of joint US-China military drills, because both countries are partners, not allies. They're not enemies, but they're not allies either. And there is, I think, some suspicion between the United States and China. The best way to overcome that is by some mutual steps, such as joint military drills. That would placate Chinese concerns about the United States' closeness to Japan. Certainly at the moment Japanese-Chinese relations are very difficult. But like I say, I think China has need to be as concerned about this as anyone. And whilst the North wouldn't attack China, um, a belligerent nuclear armed North Korea would absolutely not be in Chinese interests. I mean, for one thing, the Chinese have their own nuclear deterrent, so it's not like they need the North Koreans as some sort of bulwark against American influence. Um, it's very difficult to know what's the approach with this regime. The idea of military intervention would potentially initiate a World War III, potentially. And that sounds like a sort of dramatic way to put it. But like I say, North Korea really can't be underestimated on the grounds that it's a proven track record of inconsistency, paranoia, provocative statements. I don't think the North is going to attack anyone anytime soon. They may not even have any plans for that in the short term, but there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever of reforms within the North Korean regime, unlike China where there is reforms. Um, I think as long as that situation remains, and again, it's very difficult to know because we know so little about the North. Um, but so long as there is that personality cult, so long as the North Korean people are enslaved in every sense of the word, um, the regime there is not. It, how do you actually negotiate with a regime that is absolutely hates its opponents? Um, you know, because North Korea has a track record of breaking pledges and then trying to style it as opposing American imperialism. Needless to say, North Koreans are brainwashed from birth to death about the evils of America. Um, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this develops. It could well be that the whole thing will quiet down, and that's that. And I don't think there'll be any immediate consequences from this test other than the condemnation. But I think the fear is, um, at what point are they going to develop a weapon that will be capable of reaching California? My understanding is this particular weapon that was detonated was a relatively small bomb. Um, but like I say, a nuclear bomb is a nuclear bomb. Even a small bomb can wipe out a city. Uh, this is no joke, and it's not media sensationalism. I think um, that would be my sort of proposal for the next step. Would be closer US-Chinese cooperation on the issue. Of course, there's always going to be differences, issues like human rights and so on, but when we're potentially talking about world stability, it's too important for differences to be cast, to be to get in the way. Um, China and the US need each other. It's not a case of one being subservient to the other in terms of their influence on the world and needing each other. Um, what I would like to see, in fact, is not just Five Nation talks, so to speak, but much closer cooperation between all players involved. Um, and I would include North Korea in that list, but like I say, they're not interested in negotiations. I would like to see China, South Korea, Japan, Russia, and the United States all work together to send out a unilateral message. And that won't be an American message, it won't be a Japanese message, it won't be a Chinese message. It should be a unilateral message. And yes, there can be disagreements among those countries, but I think I heard even Iran condemned it, was critical of it. Now, that's saying something. And it will be interesting to see what develops. on this whole issue. They could well test another device soon. I really don't know. Um, I'm personally very interested in it. I'm going to China in less than 10 days. Where I'll be will be a long way from the Korean Peninsula, but nevertheless, I am in that region, so it could be interesting to see what pans out. Um, I think the pressure's on China to see what step they will take, if they'll back further sanctions, but then again, I don't know what sanctions would do. It's very hard to know with this regime, and that's my thoughts really on that matter. Just a closing point. Those people who really are delusional enough to try and compare North Korea to anywhere else, especially to an imperfect democracy like the United States, stop using YouTube, stop using Facebook, stop speaking English. If you're so anti-American, practice what you preach, and stop endorsing aspects of American culture and capitalism, because that's just hypocritical. Okay, thank you for watching.